Hey neighbor, welcome back to ARTV. My name is John and I love puns. I love puns, I love wordplay, I love double entendres, and although I often blur the line and get all of those things confused with each other, grammar is fun.
Spelling is fun!
No, Taylor, you need to calm down. I said grammar was fun. Anyways, let's uncover more of my nerdy side on this week's episode of SOS by breaking down 7 clever songs with the pun right there in the title. You'd think this would be a lot more common than it actually is, but it's often the album title that has the pun and not the song, like Blizzard of Oz or Rust in Peace, or even Alkaline Trio's Good Morning would count because of the altered spelling. Basically, if you're not sure what a pun is, I'll explain it to you like you're 4. Dictionary.com defines a pun as the humorous use of a word or phrase so as to emphasize or suggest its different meanings or applications, or the use of words that are alike or nearly alike in sound but different in meaning, a play on words. All caught up? Good. If not, then now would be the perfect time to integrate a Grammarly sponsorship, but they never got back to me, so I guess you'll just have to Google it. Let's see what these witty songs have up their sleeve after putting such enticing wordplay in their names. This should be a very fun one, at least for me, if not for you, so throw on your readers, gently press that like button until it turns blue, and let's pretend I'm not this excited to talk about puns. I don't want to be the one to burst your little bubble of sunshine and trampolines, but I'm gonna have to explain this one to you like you're dumb. Silverstein wrote a song titled My Heroine, which indeed puns us right off the bat with its double meaning. You see, kids, heroin is a drug, a very bad drug that you stay the hell away from, but it also means heroine, as in the female hero in a story setting, so there we go with the layered meaning. I've never been super invested in Silverstein for whatever reason, but this has always been one of their crowning achievements. It manages to blend the post-hardcore scene with a brilliant dash of emotion, one that sees their vocalist Shane Told using the drug love metaphor in a really commendable way that actually feels real, like there's actually some sort of consequence at hand instead of just saying, "Oh girl, you're like a drug, I'm so addicted to you." The pun comes into play because he refers to a girl like a romantic partner in the chorus and closes by singing, lost and depressed from the awful truth, "How do you do it? You're my heroine." It shouldn't take a rocket scientist to understand he's implying that the girl is like a drug in the way that she lifts his spirits and makes him feel at ease, but it's also an addicting feeling and he's worried that he'll overindulge himself. Not bad for a song drunkenly written on a train ride into Paris that Shane literally had to throw a tantrum for in order to get it on the final track list of their highly revered album Discovering the Waterfront. SLØTFACE are a Norwegian pop-punk band that have already reinvented their style and stood out from the scene in their short time together. The puntastic play on words is lifted from their bangin' sophomore album Sorry for the Late Reply, and actually happens to be one of the best songs on there. Telepathetic is the name of the tune. Do you see what they did there? Telepathetic, telepathy, pathetic. You get it. Telepathy is a concept most of you are probably well aware of. You've seen movies like Chronicle or X-Men or Carrie where one of the characters deal with their mind-bending powers. Well, imagine that, except the play on words makes it more fit for a stay-at-home slacker than it does a superhero. This song has a really contagious energy that rubs off as you go along, but that almost apathetic hook that works in the telepathetic pun so naturally really made me laugh in the middle of rocking out. Of course, the scorching guitars are easy to sink into, but take a second to appreciate the lyrics here. Their frontwoman Haley Shea sings thinking, "If you think hard enough, you'll make it happen," following a series of verses about really trying to find a spark of motivation before hitting us with that back-to-back telepathetic telethon. It's so good, and when they start layering in all the extra vocals as the song becomes a scorcher for the final hook, it's like this dizzying mosh pit madness you die to be a part of.
Against the sea, and back to circle for a dance.
Up next are indie duo MGMT with a puzzling moment from the self-titled record I Love You Too, Death. I don't think much needs to be explained there outside of the crowd that constantly uses the incorrect form of two, but the title of course is spinning the phrase I love you to death as in I would do anything for you because I love you, and turning it into a borderline emo sentiment as our narrator responds to the sweet release of death with a mutual admiration. It's a crazy, very trippy, spaced out stream of consciousness song that can be hard to get a grip on, but if you're able to get all the way up that hill to see the view, it's beautiful in a morbid way. Death is a complicated topic and something that so many fear, and I think this song very matter-of-factly states that it's always going to be about finding satisfaction or distraction, or else we'll fall in love with the idea of dying, of passing on to something that we think must be better than this time here on Earth. It's not endorsing suicide or harming yourself or anything like that, I don't think, obviously. It's just an ode to finding fulfillment in the face of our inevitable demise. Punk rock band Pup drop in from Canada at the number 4 spot for a rollicking blast good time with multiple layers in their song title. It's lifted from my 2019 Album of the Year Morbid Stuff and happens to be one of the biggest standouts on an already phenomenal record. Enter Bloody Mary, Kate and Ashley, a whimsical, joyful sounding tune about a bad drug trip that ended in the singer playing Bloody Mary in the mirror. So many horror movies have touched on this game where you say Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary 3 times in the mirror, and then this lady is supposed to show up and start killing you, or else she's standing right behind you. It's folklore dating back hundreds of years, but it's used in a comical way in this Pup song, considering he's tripping pretty hard on some sort of drug, and now when he looks in the mirror, he is completely freaked out, considering he's said her name 3 times, but can't figure out if what he's seeing is real or fake. It's not until the second chorus where we get the full version of the hook that includes the reference to Mary, Kate, and Ashley, the Olsen twins, who were of course famous for starring in the show Full House, and all of those movies you probably saw all over ABC Family in the 2000s. The title could have simply stopped at Bloody Mary, but he adds on Mary, Kate, and Ashley as if it's a list of names following Mary around like a ghost. He even asks this supposed spirit which Olsen twin she prefers before yelling out, "Hey, can anyone else see this shit?" I'm paraphrasing, but you get it. Is it a pun or an anagram or both? I don't fully know. I'm nowhere near as smart as I think I am sometimes, but I had to give the legend David Bowie a spotlight for the title track from his 1973 album ALADDIN SANE. This serves as the character name for the follow-up to Ziggy Stardust, a character that Bowie created to represent a young man on the brink of shipping off to war. Anti-war songs were increasingly widespread in the 60s and 70s due to all of the conflicts going on worldwide, but this record in particular was inspired by Bowie's trips across the pond touring the States, most likely taking note of the mental impact the Vietnam War was having on young men there. It's a rather bleak song driven by these haunting gasps of piano that sound so rich in the mix, propping up the rest of the song that almost feels like a number for a musical. I could spend a lot more time talking about the music, and believe me, I love the fluent jazzy language all the musicians are speaking. The pianos are fucking wild, and that snappy bass line popping around like kernels in a microwave is a wonderful anchor for the track, but let's talk about the play on words at hand and dive into the actual story. ALADDIN SANE, it's the name of the character. It could maybe make you think of the Disney character Aladdin, but what he's saying is that you never really know exactly where you're going when you're shipped off to fight for your country, and Bowie is implying with his pun, ALADDIN SANE. You'd have to be insane to sign your life away and go off to war, basically, and there's this really fascinating ahead of its time discussion about the toll it's without a doubt going to take on a soldier's mind. From the very moment this song released, I was enamored, not only because of the buried treasure planted right in the name, more so due to just how gleeful and triumphant sounding this song about early death actually is. This was the lead single alongside Step from their beloved album Modern Vampires of the City, and the title Diane Young should become crystal clear the more times you say it to yourself. Diane Young, Diane Young, Diane Young. Boom, there it is. Now that we've made that already painfully obvious connection, allow me for just a moment to sing the praises of this song because it's without a doubt one of my favorites from Vampire Weekend. They roll in with this anthemic steamroller attitude that cruises along at the speed of light with glitchy drums, wacky keys, and lightning rod guitars, and of course one of my favorite uses of obvious pitch shifting in a song ever. But what's actually in the song? Well, let's balance out our equation here. We've got Dying Young essentially as our title, and then there's lots of references to an early passing from life packed into the lyrics. Solve for V, and you've got the most optimistic outlook about not knowing what the future holds ever, and the second song about death on this list. What is it about these indie bands making us contemplate our existence? If there was ever a song to invade Area 51 to, it would be Rosetta Stoned by the prog rock band Tool. This has always been one of my favorite songs from 10,000 Days, although there's a lot of those to be honest, but the title always made me think of those stupid typing courses my school always made me take with the Learn to Type software Rosetta Stone. Here though, something tells me Maynard James Keenan wasn't making a pun on the classroom learning equipment, he was breathing life into the narrator's drug trip through the sectioned off portion of the desert containing government secrets and details about extraterrestrial life forms that are often classified under the term Rosetta Stone. The little play on words is very much in line with the subtle humor you'd expect from Maynard, and those moments of comic relief happen again and again throughout the song. You've gotta hand it to the band for these incredible build-ups and payoffs they take us on through Rosetta Stone. It really adds to the Valley-styled climax they keep us chasing the whole way without feeling like a total tease. It's downright nasty, and as we learn more about what our narrator is uncovering in the desert, we taste a really potent captain's log-like response that puts everything into these acute, easy to understand and connect with passages that makes it feel like he's that much more human, like we're right there in the desert with them. Eventually, we get to that iconic, often memed line that any Tool fan could quote you, "But I forgot my pen, shit the bed again, typical." This line always gets me because it's like you just went through all of that, like your third eye was just opened in Area 51 because you're so high, but you forgot a pen and now you can't write down anything that you're seeing and you know your ass is gonna forget before you can tell anyone. I wish my stoned adventures involved an Area 51 raid or a trip through the desert instead of getting the munchies and watching Maynard give a tour of his winery on YouTube, but alas, I couldn't help but give Tool the #1 spot on this list. Punning is so much fun, I do it all the time, just ask any of my annoyed friends, although a lot of these were a bit darker than the lighthearted ones that I make with them. Anyways, what are some examples of song titles with puns on the title that maybe I didn't include on the list? Did any of the ones that I did pick catch you off guard, like maybe you hadn't noticed them before? Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for letting me geek out a bit with this episode. I had the idea over a year ago and finally just made myself commit to doing it. It was actually a little bit harder than you'd think to find some of the puns in the title. If you missed last week's episode of SOS, then you can hit this link to see it, or you can tap here to see another recent review on the channel. All of my socials that you see on screen now are linked in the description down below, and I'll be back with more right here on